Your meeting is currently in process. Cancel.
Go down to your
Meeting
logo.
is currently in process.
It doesn't look like anyone's waiting.
It's because I'm logging in as Paul.
Log in as yourself, you can still share. It's like everyone who wants to be in ends in.
Just checking, are we ready to start our meeting?
Give us just another minute, Blake.
Okay.
You can go ahead and start the meeting when you're ready.
Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to our Wasatch County Board of Education meeting. Today is May 21st, 2020. We are meeting via Zoom, virtual meeting, and would like to welcome everyone. Those who in the public are watching, we welcome any questions. You can submit those questions to questions@wasatch.edu. We will begin by having a pledge of allegiance. Board member Tyler Bluth will lead us in that.
Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
Republic,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. Okay, just want to take a minute or a few seconds and just thank again everyone who was involved in our wonderful graduation last night. I thought it went very well. Appreciative of all the work that the high school and the staff and everybody at the district office that participated and helped and prepared. I think it was something that our seniors will remember. And I'm just grateful for all those who put so much work into that, and grateful for our community who supported the efforts of that graduation. So thanks to everyone involved. We will now go ahead and begin our meeting with some informational items, and I'll turn the time over to Superintendent Paul Sweat.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start right out of the gate here talking about I think the $64 question of the day. And that is, what do we know or what do we not know about next school year and starting our school year this next fall? So before we go to that, there's a couple of things. I've just been informed we need to do a quick roll call. So if we could start with the board members. President Baird, if you'd begin, and then just all of the board members, if you would just call yourself present verbally on the meeting, and then we can go through the directors.
Okay, Blake Baird, present.
Mark Davis, present. Tom Hansen, present.
Couldn't hear you, Corey.
Corey Holmes, present.
Ready at 7:02 to 7:10.
Tyler, I don't think we heard you. Are you on mute?
There we go. Now hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, Tyler Bluth, present.
Shawn Kelly, present.
Eric Peterson, present.
Eric Campbell, present.
Jim Judd, present.
John Moss, present.
Keith Johansson, present.
Kirsta Albert, present.
All Sweat, present.
Stacy Moore, present.
Okay. We'll get back to our first information item. I'm going to give kind of a brief overview, and then Garrick and other directors will get into more of the detail. Just if I can give a quick summary of summer school, we are very prepared for summer school at this point. We've done a lot of work with what that's going to look like, how we'll have to conduct check-ins and so on at schools. Right now, across Wasatch County School District, anybody that comes into a building on any day has to go through a procedure. Their temperature is taken. All employees have been instructed, if they're in the public purview or if they're dealing with students or other members of the public at all, that they are to be wearing a mask. Doing those things that make it possible for us to conduct our business and in the very near future, summer school. So we will be continue with social distancing and smaller numbers of students, but we feel like we have a good plan in place for summer school. We'll come back and answer any questions about summer school at the end of our next discussion. If you have any, hold those questions and we'll come back to that. For now, we wanted to take a moment and just make sure the board understands what our position is, where we think things are going to be as it relates to the fall. There was a state school board meeting today, and I was able to talk with Superintendent Dixon after that meeting was over, just to make sure we have the very best and most up-to-date information to give to you. And there's not a whole lot that has changed. I think we're still in a very fluid state, and we're not sure what it's going to look like this fall. We want it to be as normal as possible. The state wants it to be as normal as possible. The state school board and the state superintendent and administration has taken a stance that they will do everything in their power to make school, to help school be as normal as possible this fall. But I think that in reality, number one, we don't know, and number two, what we do know is I doubt that it's going to be normal. There's going to be things that are in place and things that make it a little different than what we're used to. It's not going to be back to the way it was a few months ago. What I know about that would be just a few generalities, and then we'll let the directors get into the detail of it. But what I know about that currently is we're still going to be required to do some social distancing. We're still going to be required to do some sort of check-in as it relates to symptoms. We're still going to be required to keep our students and our teachers closely monitored for those symptoms, and also to make sure that we're not doing anything that will put our students in danger. So I also had a call with Randall Probst to kind of see where his take on this was as of today. And these things are changing. They're changing almost daily. But right now, as things are opening up, I think in Randall's mind, a lot of this is going to depend on what the cases do. If the cases stay flat like they have been, things can be pretty good in the fall. If cases go back to an increase, then the fall could look very, very different than what we know as a normal beginning of a school year. So Randall thinks that we may have there's a possibility that we may have a fairly good opening. His concern is as we move into the flu season in October and November. I think there's some thought out there amongst the health officials that's when this could make a little bit of a rebound, and so we'll be doing things that will maybe help prevent a rebound. And if it does rebound, then we go into plan B or plan C or whatever it might be. So these aren't really great answers that I'm giving you, and it kind of brings us back to again, we don't know. It's too early to tell, and as time progresses over the next weeks and months, we'll hopefully have a better idea. And I think that as we get towards the end of June and even sooner, we're going to be interested in a district, as we've talked amongst ourselves as staff here at the district. If we don't have some pretty clear-cut guidelines from others by the end of June, we're going to want to have our own plan pretty well mapped out and in place, and we want to have something that we've thought through, that we think is doable, and have it at the ready. By that time, whether we have something from our state and local health officials or not. So that's a summary. I don't know. It sounded to me, as I listened to my own summary there, a lot like all of these COVID updates do. It's kind of a little bit of this and that and something in between, but that's really the best we have. I did want to share. There is a there is a thing floating around, and I believe board member Hansen shared it with the board. It's a list of guidelines from the CDC. We feel like that's kind of being floated almost as kind of a little bit of a scare tactic. If you break it down line by line, most of it is based in reality, but some of it maybe is not. The CDC seems to be kind of our last expert that we go to. I think we start with our county health official, which is Randall and his people. From there, it goes to our governor and the state task force. We have Randall is very much in tune with the state task force. Shawn Kelly sits on the county task force. So we're very connected to these ongoing meetings, and that's where we get most of our information and guidance from. We don't spend a lot of time really studying what the CDC is putting out. We kind of go through our local and state task force And as I said, we're connected with Shawn Kelly being an active member on those county meetings. Rather they happen daily or a couple times a week. So that's kind of an overview. I wished it was more definitive. It's not. With that, I'm going to turn some time now. If there are not any questions, I'll turn some time to Garrett to lead the discussion from our academic people and other directors that might want to chime in as to some of the things we're doing to prepare for this fall.
All right, Stacy, can you bring up the action steps for return? Yeah. So what we've done, as Paul was talking about, you know, one of the things that we've got to be ready to do as a district is to, wherever we're sitting in the phases that the state has talked about, that we kind of have our own phases for coming back. And it doesn't matter if we're online or face-to-face, there's some things that we need to do to be ready to bring kids back in. So what we drew up are phases that we go through in order to bring kids back into the building and also be ready to teach them well. And you know, we generally as educators want to jump to that education first side of things, but we've got to make sure that safety's first. So I'll just kind of take you through this and then open it up to questions. So you can see our first phase of that is to create a group of experts on the criteria for returning to school based on the governor's 2.0 plan. And then that group will create plans for each building to bring kids back in safe, because there's certain criteria that you need to meet in order to do that. And each building's a little bit unique in their efforts to meet that. So you can see down below some of the steps to that. The district office gets trained on the criteria for returning to school. That, I want you to know, that happened a few weeks ago. Then the principals got trained on the criteria for returning to school. And really at this point, I think all but one of our schools, and I think that last school may even be tomorrow, has been trained, and we've had the teachers trained on the criteria for returning to school. And as we're doing all of that, we've been getting supplies and materials to make sure that we're equipped to bring kids back safely to school. You know, one of the things that we thought through is we were thinking about this is maybe 2-3 weeks ago, the governor said we could bring kids back, start bringing kids back in small groups for tutorial. We can't open up school, but we could bring them back in for tutorial. So we are planning to do a summer tutorial that we'll talk about a little bit later. Well, we will get to practice some of these plans that we're putting into place, but just with smaller kids, so, or a smaller amount of kids, which I think that's important for us to be able to practice that, just opening up on a lesser capacity, seeing how things go. So that in the fall, we'll be really ready to meet those guidelines that we've been given to open up safely. Second phase is we got to then build adult capacity. So each school team will develop a school plan for safe return that meets the safety criteria from phase 1. So we'll take that safety criteria, and then a team from each school will create, with the help of our school nurse, their supervisor, their director that's over that area, Shawn and others, to help make sure that we've got a plan for them to come back in meeting those guidelines. And then we will have the faculty and staff trained specifically on those guidelines. Again, we've been able to do a little bit of this in preparation for summer school, and especially in our elementary schools. So we feel that that's an advantage to us. And then the other thing that we will attempt to put out as soon as we feel solid about that is we'll put a communication out to parents. You know, we've heard from parents. We met with the district PTA, and we know what's on people's mind are things like, okay, how are kids going to come back to school? What's it going to look like? So the quicker we can communicate to parents, the better off we're going to be. And then once we kind of get a plan for them to return safely, we have all the pieces in place to do that. That's when we'll be able to bring kids back and focus on the instruction that we want to in going after our mission and of helping all kids obtain all the essential knowledge, skills, and dispositions that they need to be successful. So what we'll do there is, and this is the education side of things, we will develop a clear philosophy for each phase of the governor's 2.0 plan. So we have our red phase, orange phase, yellow phase, and green phase coming from the state. Red, we're completely online. And so we've got to be ready and we think we got off to a good start, but we need to become great. And there's adjustments we can make there. And even though superintendent said it's a little bit fluid, we know that we can do things to become better at online instruction and the work we do there. And then orange is similar to red, maybe some small groups like we're currently in, but mostly online. Yellow, it's interesting. In the last week, there's been 2 different yellow phase documents come out from the governor specific to education. And it looks like different possibilities there. One could be like superintendent started or talked about, is where we would be a little bit smaller groups in the school, but we could bring them back. So maybe we've got a little bit of time at home as a student and a little bit of time at school. Or that yellow phase, who knows, things do change here. Maybe we'll be all back together. We'll just have to see how that plays out. And then green is kind of what they call the new normal. I want you to know that no matter what happens there, we have put a great deal of thought and we will be prepared on each one of those. We've got different things. We are, of course, the State Office of Education and the governor's plan is supposed to be also working on some guidance for us on those. But like superintendent said, we'll be prepared whether or not we get that guidance or not from the state office. Next piece is continue to use taking action, which is a framework that we use to make sure we're meeting the needs of all kids, to kind of guide our work. And we know we need to put a special focus on small group instruction, because you can hear in these phases, we could be dealing with small groups a lot. And then also the idea of blended learning, where you're doing some instruction at home, some instruction at school. Really getting good at things like Canvas courses to help organize kids, to help organize our coursework, to help organize parents. Those are some things that we can focus on that will set us up whether we're in person or at home. And then the last piece there is to communicate that plan to parents. Again, we'd like to get that plan into parents' hands as quickly as possible, so that we can let them plan their lives as well. So that's kind of our steps for returning. I'll kind of open it up for conversation. Do know that we have started quite a bit down the road to making sure that we have plans in place for each of those phases, so that we can be as effective as we can be in each one of those when it comes to our students' education.
I would just like if Kirsta or Stacy could email us as board members those documents, so that we have them in a PDF and that are have in case we need to refer to those when people in the community have questions for us. I would appreciate that.
Definitely.
Other questions from board members?
One of the questions you guys may get asked is the status of driver's ed and the status of athletics during the summer. We're prepared to start driver's ed fairly quickly now that we've got these new regulations from from the state health department that allows driver's ed to begin. Our school nurse will be training all the driver's ed instructors next week, and we anticipate being able to go forward. There is a bit of a backlog, but we've got a lot of help getting kids caught up with driver's ed. Also, the State Athletic Association, they are giving us a little bit of a free rein after May 26th. And so we will be doing summer sports camps and summer sports trainings. We've put together a list of precautions that'll need to be in place for those to happen. And so some of the camps, depending on the sport, will be a little limited in what kinds of activities they can do. We will be checking symptoms of every kid every day as they come on to that. And so we fully anticipate going forward with some sense of summer sports.
Mr. Judd, I did receive a call this week from a county council member asking about a potential of a 7-on-7 that we host, and we've done that in years past. And I have talked to Coach Coburn, and that's the plan, is still to host one in June. I assume we'll follow the health department's guidelines if we do host that in June, or if we have to wait till July. He's got that scheduled also in July if we have to push it back. Just any thoughts on that from you?
So we've been meeting about that. We're working with the health department on that. There is a little hesitancy to do the 7-on-7 because it's inviting people from different counties into our county, and that's a lot harder to manage. So I don't feel, at least the last time we met together, that we have a decision made about the 7-on-7 tournament. And again, specifically because of the nature of bringing in teams from other counties that we just don't have as much jurisdiction or control on.
And when I did talk to Coach Coburn, he did indicate that he just has scheduled it, being proactive, just in case we can do it. It's a fundraiser, obviously, for the team, and so he didn't. He's just being proactive to get it scheduled, and then he'll follow the guidance by the health department and so forth.
Like, how many teams are involved usually with that?
I think they usually have about 15 to 18 teams that come in.
Yeah, it's a pretty big fundraiser for the football program, and Coach Coburn is being very proactive and optimistic right now in hopes that that'll happen. But we're working with the health department on their feelings of bringing in out of county people at that level.
Okay, thank you.
What were you hearing from the county council, Blake, that they were concerned about it or that they were supportive of it, or what was their take on it?
No, I think what they had just received some emails from concerned citizens of bringing people from outside of the county in for a tournament, and just had wondered if that had been approved. And so I went ahead and called Coach Coburn, and it's just him being proactive and optimistic. And I think that's fine. But I assured the county council that we would do, or the county councilman, that we would follow the health department and take all the precautions that are needed if in fact that is approved and we do it.
Hey, the Activity Association has always been so involved in every aspect of athletics forever in the state. Now it seems like with this, they're kind of backing off and not just letting each individual district or community make the decisions here, getting back into athletics. What is the feeling there? To me, that's what it seems like. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we feel the same way, that they could have been a little more helpful with some directions. The decisions made up until the 26th primarily came from the Board of Trustees, which is governed mostly by your fellow board members from around the state. This was more, the way I see it, this decision was made more by the executive committee, which is the next level down, which is more high school administrators, principals, and athletic directors, and so on. And it seems like they did take a little bit of a back seat and said they wanted to leave it to counties. Part of their reasoning was there are different counties on different levels, and of course we're orange, and most of the rest of the state is yellow. We're hoping to be yellow here fairly soon, maybe even in the next 2 or 3 days. But we've worked through it, and Jim's done a great job helping at the high school with that, and we'll do the best we can. It's just this tightrope we're all walking all the time. We want the kids to be able to play. We want these things to be able to happen for our students, and we're just trying to find that balance between being safe and letting them play.
I mean, we do have youth. We have players right now, I know in baseball, that are traveling outside of the county and playing in weekend tournaments where counties are allowing that. And so hopefully we can follow suit and be able to host some of these things under the proper conditions.
And if board members have specific feelings on this one way or the other, now would be a great time. I'd invite you to share your feelings as board members, and it's good for us as staff and the directors as they're working through these things with coaches and so on, kind of where you stand as a board. When we talk about local control, that they're talking about 5 school board members. Certainly you guys more than staff, and we'll give our thoughts and feelings on it, but we certainly would love your direction on it.
Well, that's just the nature of this is so fluid. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Seems like half the time. So to make a decision about games and how many kids you're going to have in the stands, and it could be the week before we're making decisions on that, seems like. So it's hard to forecast and tell people in the community what's going to happen, because I don't think we know.
Well, my feeling is as soon as we feel we can do it, I want these students to be able to participate and get out and play. I think it's healthy for them. Do I want to put any player at risk? Absolutely not. But that's why I think we've got to follow the health department and take the precautions that they advise us to do. But if we feel like we can do it, in my opinion, we need to let these students get out and be able to participate and play again.
And one of the things that these, like the Little League programs are doing, is now they're limiting parents coming to the game or limiting fans. That's the first thing they're doing, is they're trying to get back to play. So we have a football game in the fall with 200 kids in the stands. I mean, that's what it's going to be. How are we going to decide all that? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I think we really have to follow what the health department says in the other direction that we get.
Yeah.
It's hard in this situation with local control. If you go outside of it and want to do something to get the kids involved and go against what the experts are saying, I think that puts us at risk, even though that's what we all want and that's what we're all here for, is to provide opportunity. But I agree with the way that Blake and Tyler explained it. It's hard to know today what we're going to be dealing with in August and September.
Hey, Jimmy, what's the deal with the 26th? I don't know if I understood. The state's letting us do what with our local teams?
So typically the athletic association works within seasons, and then they dictate the rules of what you can and can't do during that season. So in the last letter or memo that they sent out, they're they're saying their season, their jurisdiction over what high schools can and can't do ends on the 26th. And then it becomes up to local districts to determine what they will do with teams during the summer. And then that'll pick back up under their control sometime towards the end of July, beginning of August. I think superintendent will know more about those exact dates.
I get it.
It kind of stems from a lot of different things have been going on, and then people are calling the state and saying, hey, we know for a fact that you know, the so-and-so's drill team is practicing over at the dance hall instead of at the school, but they're still practicing. And you know, over in Park City, they're playing 7-on-7 football and they're not supposed to be. And Camus's wrestlers are practicing. I'm just throwing these things out here. And so there's been a lot of kind of finger pointing going on. And I think the state felt like they came out and said, listen, we've given directives, but on the 26th, that's when our last state tournament would be done and school would be out. That's Memorial Day weekend. We will no longer be policing these things. We will leave it up to local health departments and local school districts. So that's where that announcement, I believe, stemmed from, was a whole lot of, hey, they're doing this and they're doing that, and who's gonna police it.
So do we feel like we're prepared to be consistent among the different teams and groups, and then who's going to regulate or monitor what people do?
Yeah, that's my point is they've kind of just said, hey, we're washing our hands of this. Let you guys figure it out. When always in the past, they've been so, this is what you wanted to do on this date and when you can start, but now they're just saying, okay, figure it out. And so what's going to be the consistency around the state with what everybody's doing in this time frame? Or does it even matter? You know?
I think that has to do with we're going into summer and school's out, and so they probably don't feel like they have the authority to do that or to say. But I was curious if anybody saw that article about Jordan District and how they're looking to open up, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 different sports in June. There's an article in the Tribune or the Desert News, something about that. Anybody else see that?
Yeah, they're talking about a tournament within that Jordan.
You coming with me, Audie? Have fun. I'll be there in a minute.
John, you gotta go on mute.
Oh,
You're a good boy, Audie.
Audie is a good boy.
Anyway, it will be interesting to see, and I think we do need to be as prepared as possible to let our students be as prepared as any other school. Again, being safe and following the direction of the health department.
So I still unclear on what we're doing. We opened up fields, we're opening up gyms, we're opening up tennis courts. Like, we're letting the coaches run camps.
Yeah, we're going to be able to, under these new directions, to pretty much open up almost every sport to some degree. Like I said, one of the things, of course, is trying to keep 6 feet distance, you know. So some of the sports are going to have a little harder time, and those coaches are going to have to modify some of the skills and drills that they normally do. Something like tennis is very easy comparatively. Something like wrestling is a lot more difficult. So, but we're working on getting every one of the sports summer programs going, even if they have to be modified somewhat.
We don't want to be the best team, best football team in social distancing, you know.
We just won't hit anybody.
Yeah.
The one that we weren't sure on is this 7-on-7 tournament, because it is a tournament, like it says, that brings in teams from all over the state.
Can you guys hear me?
Hello, Shawn, we can hear you.
All right. I want to weigh in just a little bit. Randall is being very open. And to answer Tom's question, I think that when we hit yellow, he's going to allow us to do pretty much everything that we tell him we're going to do. He's very open to that. Ryan Bishop has created a document for us to get approval by them that allows our kids. We will do symptom checking, and it's part of the guidelines. But Randall's giving us a lot of leeway and thinks that we're going to be able to play about every sport and have camps in every sport.
That's great.
That's helpful. Thanks, Shawn.
Anything else on that topic? If not, let's move on to summer school. Is that what's?
Yes. Eric and Jim, are you guys who's gonna lead that discussion? Is that you, Eric?
Sure, I'll talk about elementary first, if you want. So as superintendent and Garrett kind of talked about, trying to remain safe, this really is a summer tutorial and not summer school, even close to what we've run before. What we're excited about is it's really forced us to really target what students need. And so each of the principals and teachers have looked at their students to see which ones were not mastering some of our core skills and essential standards before we left. And then also looking at those kids that haven't made significant progress towards those goals in this closure time. And so with looking at those students, they've identified their greatest needs of students and also those skills they felt were most important for those students to be able to move on to the next grade level. By doing that, then they took the resources and under the current conditions, tried to limit the numbers that were coming in and how they're coming in. And so by doing that, we really, and then looking at the resources they have with teachers, most schools will do a 5 to 6 week summer tutorial with 3 to 4 days a week based on the needs of kids. Most of them will start the week of June 8th and go on for several weeks. We have one school that needs to start a little bit later because of commitments that they had with professional development that they had already committed to. That will be midway. We'll start a little bit later, but still have the same similar plan. Students would come in for about an hour per subject area. We're focusing on literacy and math skills in that time. We've also created a summer school Spanish course that will be all online through Canvas. And some of the schools may bring in some students that were struggling in their Spanish skills also in small groups and one-on-one. So that's kind of the basic elementary plan. They are identifying and inviting those students as we speak this week and next week, and asking those parents who is willing to do that. There will be no busing, so it will be the responsibility of parents to come to the schools. All of them have set up safety precautions to make sure that all the kids are checked, just like we're doing, as we've already talked about with sports and everything else. The same thing will be going on. There will be someone there to check students and screen them and adults before they come into the building. So that's kind of our plan in a nutshell for elementary. Any questions regarding that? Okay.
Okay, for secondary at the middle schools, we only have 2 things that we're going to focus summer school on, and that is students who are more than 2 grades behind in reading level. We'll be using the programs that we're going to talk about later in this board meeting. We'll be using those programs. It'll all be remote distance learning. The students will get on one-on-one with the teacher remotely, and that teacher will work with that student for 20 to 30 minutes a day And then we have the a Spanish distance learning program too, similarly, where the students will get on in small groups through teams with the teacher, and then do some modules for Spanish instruction. At the high school, summer school has always been primarily a credit recovery function for students who are behind due to getting Fs in certain subjects that they need graduation credits for. And so we'll be running that summer school. We will be doing that remotely. We've worked with the IT department, and they are going to be giving or letting students keep their devices during the duration of the summer school. And it'll be a 5-week program on both middle and high school. Any questions about summer school?
What have we heard from, and maybe you've covered this, what have we heard for demand for these classes? You think they're going to be full?
For the secondary, we're actually feeling pretty optimistic. We identified the kids who were behind on their reading level, and we already knew who they were because they're already in the reading classes. And then the vice principals, Miss Cummings, Miss Meekum, and Miss Mayer, called each of those families and told them what it was and asked them to be part of it. And they, for the most part, most of the students are agreeing to it. I think it helps a lot that they don't have to physically travel to the building to do this, and that it's going to be short, kind of half-hour increments where they're getting a lot of individualized attention with the teacher.
And for the elementary, the response has been kind of mixed. Some parents have asked just to maintain some online tutorials, mostly because of transportation and busing to the school for that short period of time. Many parents are finding that difficult, but still want to have their kids get the help. Some have said, no thanks, we're kind of done. And some are really excited about bringing their students in to receive that help. One of the areas I failed to mention was kind of our Learning Lab kids. We've had a great response from those parents, hoping to bring those kids in and to help them with some of their, essential skills that they've been missing with the not face-to-face time.
So more of it is the kids, they can do it if the parents feel like they want them to do it, or is it more by need that they have to be doing the summer school part of it? So say, for example, they're struggling with Spanish and they want to go in and just work on their Spanish, but even though they're a good student and doing okay.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, the kids for the summer tutorial have been identified by teachers as kids that were needing additional help.
Gotcha.
And then on the Spanish end, we are providing that for any student that would like that, because with the non-face-to-face time, that was such a detriment to those kids in that,
right. Okay.
In that second language type experience. And a lot of our ELL kids are getting that, help. Again, we identified those students throughout the summer, but a lot of those are choosing to either go online or felt like it was too difficult because of circumstance.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you for your work and your preparedness for the summer school program, and Garrick, appreciate the effort that's being done to help us move forward and be prepared for when we can get back to school, hopefully this fall. So thanks, everyone. Any other questions from the board on summer school or preparing for the start of next year's school? Superintendent, anything else you want to comment? You're on mute.
I would just add that we've been fortunate to have Randall Probst as our health director. There's a lot of counties that have had either absentee or else really heavy-handed health directors, and we've just had a really great relationship with him. And as Shawn said, he's been very open to our ideas and our suggestions, as we're willing to kind of do the work to go along with it. So as far as just, the question, when do we listen to the CDC? When do we listen to the state? When do we listen to our primary source that we follow is our own local health director. And I think he's been very reasonable, and he's handled this all with the right tone, and he trusts us, and he's for the most part let us do what we want to do as long as it's not way out of bounds. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from board members? Okay, let's move on to the consent items. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items on the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mark Davis, second by Tom Hansen? Or
Yeah.
Corey? By Tom? All in favor, and please state your name.
Aye, Tyler Bluth.
Hi, Tom Hansen. That was board member Holmes that gave that second, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you.
Hi, Mark Davis.
Hi, Corey Holmes.
And I, Blake Baird. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the action items of the agenda. And on tap first, as I look at this through my phone, is Dustin Miller. Action item 1, approved student parent device agreement.
Well, good evening. Last board meeting, we brought this updated policy before the board, and it's been out for review. We haven't had any comments on it, so we're just bringing it back tonight for final approval.
I do want to, this doesn't have to do with the policy, but Stacy or superintendent, do we need to state our name on each vote, or are we just okay to say aye?
Well, we can figure it out if you just all say aye.
Okay, that just will save us some time.
Yeah,
So-
that'll be fine.
Okay, well then I'll entertain, well, first of all, did we get any response or any questions about this, Dustin,
No, we did not.
from the public? Okay,
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this student parent device agreement.
I motion that we approve the student parent device agreement policy and procedures.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Action item number 2, approved data governance policy. Again, Dustin Miller.
Yep, so we brought this before the board again last month. It's been out for review. We also did not receive any comments on this. So we're just bringing it back for final approval.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the data governance plan. Is that it?
Yep, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who gave that second? Thanks, Tom. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, also Dustin, growth Apple lease agreement.
Sure. So this is the next phase with our Apple leasing. We're preparing for student growth for all of our grades for iPads and student MacBooks, and also to replace some of the early adopters of MacBooks throughout the districts, getting them some new devices and replacing some older teacher iPads as well. And this also covers a 13 iMac lab at Rocky Mountain Middle School.
What's the price tag on the purchase of the Mac at the end? And now is that kind of the first year we're doing this where seniors have the option to purchase at the end?
No, that is an option for us to, since we're doing a 4-year lease with Apple, they
Okay.
give us the option to purchase each device for $1 at the end of the lease.
Okay, so it's not the student that can buy that. That was my assumption they could.
No, so it's not a fair market value lease. It's just a $1 buyout purchase option lease for us.
Okay.
And we will continue our discussion. You know, we've since we bought the Macs, we've talked about that, Tyler, where we'd like to at some point be able to offer those to the seniors at a really discount rate. We're finally getting to where it will maybe make financial sense, or we've had the computers long enough that those first couple of years it just didn't quite work for us. So
okay,
we'll have that discussion again for the end of this next year and see if we can put a program together to offer those to seniors, work with the foundation. We might be now within reach where it will make some sense.
Yeah, the third year will be a lot better for that.
Is this our third year with the apples?
This is our second full year with the Apple, with the MacBooks at the high school.
Starting our second year. This school year will start our second year. Is that correct?
The current year we're in now is our second year.
So next year starts our third year.
Okay, all right.
And that's what I'm talking about. By the end of next year, it may work for us to have that program in place that we've talked about, where students can buy them at a nice rate, or we can award them to them, or whatever, if we can get, maybe the foundation involved somehow.
Okay.
And then I would just add a little bit of clarification here for the board and entertain questions. So really what the majority of this price tag is new students. So we are anticipating 300 new students to our district this next year. So those 300 new students will require us to purchase another 300 student devices, and also some teacher devices that will go with that. And there's an iMac lab that we're proposing to put into Rocky Mountain Middle School at the same time. That's included in this price as well.
What's an iMac lab, Paul?
It's an Apple lab that we've had one. The iMac is just the desktop iMac computer that we've had one at Timpanogos for whatever reason, and not at Rocky Mountain. Maybe Jim could tell us in more detail what they use that for, Jim. At your middle schools.
When Timpanogos was built, we kind of upgraded that. So there's a few elective classes, such as a TV broadcasting class, the video announcements, some of the more advanced kind of STEM classes need programs that are a little bit above the grade of just the student laptop device. And now that the middle schools are in iPads, of course, it's just some of those elective programs. I think Dustin might be able to get more technical on that, but we haven't had that same comparable kind of lab or needing to be updated at Rocky Mountain that we did have at Timpanogos.
We've talked about this at length in the past meetings and study sessions and other meetings that we've been in, but this lease agreement with Apple, I really think it's a benefit to the district, the way that it's handled. I think that we've really moved forward in a good direction. I think this makes more sense than what we had in the beginning where we were purchasing. So I'm in 100% favor of this, and I make a motion that we approve it as presented by Dustin Miller.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is item number 4. Harmony Educational Services, Derek Campbell.
Hey, thank you. So Stacy, would you mind moving to that next? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So for a while now, since 2013, we've had our Wasatch Learning Academy, which has provided an online option for parents, for students for various reasons. In the past, we've had very little students. To the biggest year was 19. Again, for different reasons, a lot of times medical, or others, some parents have asked to go on to an online school, and we've just had options for them to choose from to provide them curriculum for their students. All of these programs provide a teacher to go along with that curriculum. And then our responsibility is to enroll the students in our district and also to provide special education services and also assessments for these students. So this past year, we didn't have a curriculum. And so those families that wanted that option went other places. And so what we're proposing, we called several companies and got their bids amount. And what we're recommending is that we accept Harmony Educational Services. It was $2,500 per student a year. And with that curriculum, they actually give multiple options to those families to choose from for that price, which we feel is that's what a lot of the parents want is choice in this. So that's what we're proposing today, is to accept Harmony Educational Services as one of our online providers for $2,500 per student.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, Archive 3000 contract renewal. Mr. Judd.
Yes, this is Achieve 3000. This is the reading program that we were talking about a little earlier, that we use at the high school for students that are more than 2 grades below reading level. This is a yearly subscription. And so we brought this to you last year with a presentation from the assistant principals, and we're bringing it again this year for a subscription. These are expensive programs, and I want to kind of couch this one plus the one we're going to talk about for the middle schools. This just ended our 2nd year of using these programs, and we're getting some results that are very heartwarming and very touching. Just to give you a comparison, we monitor every kid in our district, we monitor multiple times a year how well they're progressing with their reading levels. And the score that we use on the secondary is called a Lexile reading score. Normally a student, just by going to school and just being part of school, will average about 80 Lexile points gained through just being part of a student in a school setting. They average about 80 points. The Rocky Mountain Middle School is, for these students who are on these reading programs, they're averaging somewhere around 150 point gain for these students. Timpanogos is very close, just below that. And even at the high school, we're averaging about 110 Lexile points, which means we're closing this achievement gap. And because we're tracking them all the way from 6th grade till they leave us as seniors, we are finally starting to see the results of students that are getting caught up with the rest of their peers by being in these programs. So we're very excited. The other thing with both this program and the others that I'm going to talk about tonight, we pay for those through the digital teaching and learning grant that we apply for through the state. So that's a very robust grant and is designed to help students or school districts, with online technology. And so I'm proposing that we renew this subscription to the Achieve 3000 with that knowledge too, that this is paid for by a state grant.
I might just add that it also takes a lot of human effort as well to support these programs. And also that for every one of these programs that actually works, there's about 100 that does not. And I believe we've gotten better as time has moved on. We've reviewed and tried a lot of different things as it relates to digital education. And I think we're getting pretty settled in on knowing the ones that work and the ones that don't. And our people have done a good job in seeking those out that actually have data to back them up as far as their efficacy goes.
Hey, Paul, along those lines, as we look at these new programs that we've been improving over the last several years, when I got on the board a number of years ago, we were using a lot of Pearson, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Have they kind of lost their foothold, or are there just that many more players who can specialize in different areas?
Well, Pearson is the story of Pearson in a nutshell. They're a huge company. They're global. I think they're primarily owned out of Great Britain, but they are just a humongous company. And what we were drawn to in the beginning with Pearson is it was a person, and that was our friend Scott Drossas that really helped get going down this digital teaching and learning path. And they had hired him and created a wing in their company. He was the vice president over digital learning, and we partnered up with him. And for the longest time, we had a very large Pearson package. As time went on, they went away from that. Some of these decisions that these large companies make, who knows why they do it, but they did away with that division of the company. Scott Drossas left. We went to, from one person to another. Over time, we've whittled out a lot of those things because, number one, they no longer supported them. What was a really nice program when we started this process, and we know in the software world, within 2 or 3 years, it's outdated, it's clunky, it doesn't work as well as some of the newer ones. So over time, we've gone from Pearson having really, 90% of the share of the software we were using to now it's whittled down to a much smaller number. And yes, we found other places and other avenues that have better products. They still have a fairly decent presence. We no longer have just this large comprehensive contract with them. Jim, you could maybe tell the board or tell us which ones of these are still Pearson. I know number 8, Envision Math, is a Pearson product, and there may be 1 or 2 others in there that are Pearson. Can you give us a rundown on that, Jim?
Yeah. So as far as what we still use from Pearson, as you can see on the board agenda tonight, middle school math is still using Pearson. English language arts still uses Pearson. We still use Pearson for Spanish instruction for our DLI program. We still use Pearson as a health textbook. And then Pearson's still one of the very few that have materials for AP and concurrent enrollment classes. And so we still use Pearson for that. The middle schools are probably your big stronghold still for using Pearson. The other thing that's happened in the last 5-6 years since we went down this journey is a lot more districts are putting out open source material that is just paid for by general taxpayer dollars. And so they're kind of free for districts to use and collaborate with. So our math curriculum at the high school, that would be equivalent to an open source because that was made for or made with public entity money. And so we were able to get that for just the cost of printing the materials. But it's significantly diminished over time with Pearson.
Thank you.
So that might be a good segue, or maybe when you get to the end of your renewals, but we do have some really positive news on the new math curriculum. It started out really rough. It started out so rough that I think it was a challenge for you as board members to support it and to continue to defend it. In the end, we'll take responsibility for a really poor rollout. but in the end, it's proven what we thought that it would be able to do. And I'll let Jim give kind of an update on where that stands as we're looking at some year-end ACT scores.
Okay, so I think we're at the action item of approving Achieve 3000.
So can I?
Is there a dollar amount on that, Jim?
15,027 and 34 cents.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Is that an opposed or a nay? A yay?
Yay.
Okay. Unanimous. All right, motion passes. We'll move on now to item 6. Unless, Jim, do you want to talk about that, or do you want us to keep moving on this? Mr. Judd?
Oop, I was muted. Thank you for that support. So I'll just move on to the next one.
Okay.
NWEA is a program we use at the younger grades. We use it at the younger grades primarily because they don't have a lot of state core end of level assessment. So we use it there. Plus we use it at the high school as an ACT predictor test. Those of you with high school kids know that while the juniors are taking the ACT, the freshmen and sophomores are practicing ACT with the NWEA. And so we use that NWEA at both bookends of our district. And this is a yearly subscription for the amount of usage that we give to it. Again, this is paid for out of our digital teaching and learning grant. And so we need an action item to renew NWEA.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the
Can you roll that back down?
Sorry. Make a motion to approve the NWEA for an amount of $42,325.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item number 8, Envision Math, grades 6 through 8. Mr. Judd.
Oh, I think we need to approve this one first before we go to math. This is the
Voyager's SoPress Learning Renewal.
This is the reading program that the middle schools use. And again, similar to this, I just can't tell you enough the life-changing effect that it is having, getting these kids caught up in reading. And as the superintendent message, this is a journey that we're taking where we're getting the right teachers, we're finding the balance of how to motivate these kids. These kids give up electives in order to take these courses, and these are the same programs we're using for the summer school. But this is a yearly subscription too. And Stacy, if you can scroll down to the bottom there. It is a little bit more. Not only is the product a little more expensive, but we're getting more kids involved in it, trying to get them caught up by the time they get high school. And again, this is one of those that we pay for through the digital teaching and learning grant.
Great, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve for $35,664 for the reading. What's it called? Can you scroll up again? Voyager Learning for middle school reading program that was described by esteemed Director Jimmy Judd.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye. Sorry. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have a delay going on here. Okay, thanks, everyone. The motion passes. Now we'll move on to item number 8, Envision Math.
Board Member Hansen, I'd like to get you in the same room with my family and have you call me the esteemed director. I'd like for them to hear that at some point.
You've earned it. You've earned it. Yeah.
So before we get into this particular thing, I do want to give you an update on our math journey. So as Superintendent mentioned, probably one of our clunkiest rollouts we've ever experienced, and we learned a lot from it about things not to do in doing a curriculum rollout. And we took a bunch of heat, all of us here on this Zoom call, and including the high school administration and the high school math teachers, about what are you guys doing? You know, why are you changing things up? So one of the downsides of not having end of level tests is we didn't have that moment where we could say, here's our end of level assignment or results that we have right here. So we're putting together some of our other pieces of data, and it's looking very promising. So just a couple of points. Last year at the ACT, our math students the average score was a 20.5. And you guys know how averages work, and averages are hard to kind of move. This year, our average went up by 0.5 to a 21. Our goal is to have every student at a 23 before they leave Wasatch High School. That's considered career and college ready. And we feel like we can do this, and to have a half-point average gain in that 1 year with this more rigorous curriculum shows a lot of work from both the students and the parents supporting us and the teachers, and just a tremendous effort as we kind of raise the bar. Not only that, the NWEA, which is that program we just talked about that we use to measure student growth. Typically, our average has been that students improve that score during their sophomore year by 3 points. This year, our average was 4.5 points, which is showing a tremendous increase in the amount of growth that students are getting. And probably where the rubber really hits the road, Principal Johnson made an in-house policy that we want students to have a 26 on the ACT in order to qualify for AP Calculus. And that's a pretty high bar. And this year, we were able to get we had 35 more students hit the bar than we had last year. And so out of a class of 500 kids, 35 more students than last year were able to get that 26 on the ACT, on the ACT. Now, they may not all take AP Calculus. There's a lot of options. There's Math 1040, there's Math 1050. There's different options for them, but they are qualified to take AP Calculus. And so we're feeling pretty optimistic. The math teachers at the high school and the administration are really satisfied with the level gains this year. Are there any questions just about that math update at the high school?
Are we broadcasting that on our social media?
Well, we haven't yet. These are internal numbers. And we're just kind of putting these together as we wind down the end of the year, but we definitely need to have a message about that, and not just about the efforts of the school district. We had a lot of students that took the challenge from these math teachers to step up their game, and it's showing. But we haven't put that out yet. This is kind of hot off the press numbers.
And
the numbers are pretty raw. They do need to be, you know, they still have to go through the whole verification process through ACT. And there's maybe some things we can do to kind of verify as well. But to answer your question, Mark, as soon as we feel really solid about the numbers, we will shout this from the rooftops, and we'll shout it from the rooftops in relation to the math curriculum, so that we can kind of put an end to that story that started off pretty negatively. Yeah, we were asking your kids to do harder math. We increased the rigor in our math program, and after a whole lot of complaining and gnashing of teeth and so on, it proved to be just what we needed. And it's something we've learned in this district, and we've talked about moving that achievement needle. And we know we have some really lofty goals to get it up there. And when your PLCs are all functioning, when you have high functioning PLCs and the achievement still is not there, we have to turn to rigor. We have to turn to the curriculum. And that's what we did in math. And I'm just proud of all of our people. Our high school administration took a lot of licks over this, and our math teachers. In another 2 or 3 years, they'll all be singing our praises that we helped their students get past those gateway classes in college, so that it opened up all kinds of career doors for them that otherwise would not be there.
What I appreciate, Superintendent, is that it was a little bit of a rough start and rollout, and we took responsibility, but yet the task still was focused, and we kept to it. We kept to the task. Everyone was focused. And at the end of the day, the results are showing. And I think all of us as board members appreciate that. And let's fine tune those numbers and let's get that message out. But we do thank everybody for their efforts on this.
We greatly appreciate the fact that the board stuck behind us and defended us and allowed us to move forward, because you know, that's not always the case. We see that on a regular basis in other districts where that's not the case. And you know,
in fact, the high school math teachers wanted me to specifically to mention that they appreciate your support, and that there could have been a time where the support of the board would have taken the pressure from the public and said, we're not ready to support this, and you stuck by them, and they just wanted to make sure that you knew how appreciative they were.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, so that goes back to then this contract is actually for the middle school math. Earlier this spring, maybe towards the end of winter, we put out an RFP for a math program. Our contract with Pearson had ended, and so we put it out and went out and tried to find multiple people to submit. The math departments at the middle schools at the end decided for another Pearson product to renew with them and to continue forward with that. And I just want to kind of tell you the exhaustive process to look at curriculum. These math teachers kind of do this looking outside of contract time because they're teaching all day, and they put in many hours looking through this, getting presentations. But at the end of the day, we decided that a new version, an updated version of Envision Math, which we have been using a form of Envision Math for the past 6 years at the middle schools, is what we'd like to do. So to make sense of this contract, you see it's fairly expensive. That is a 3-year contract. And so what that translates to is $17 per year per kid for this math curriculum. And so we'll be able to space that off over a 3-year period. for this. And as far as kind of where we use as a ballpark, in the old days when we'd buy a textbook, textbooks are running about $100 to $150 now per kid. These are digital textbooks. In the old days, a textbook would last as many years until they had just fallen apart. The equivalent of a digital subscription textbook of $17 per kid roughly is about the same as if we were buying them hardbound textbooks that needed to be replaced every 5 or 6 years.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the math program as presented by Jim Judd for $94,590.45.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, I think I'm done spending money.
Is that it for you, Mr. Judd?
Yeah, Jim, make sure you tell all the teachers that worked on the curriculum committees, thank you.
You bet. Oh, I'm not done spending money. I have one more.
I think you have instructor mastery.
That's it. So I think just 2 board meetings ago, we brought a proposal of an electronic monitoring program for the K-8 students called OTUS, O-T-U-S. That OTUS program, we didn't feel worked very well with high school because high school is so Canvas oriented that they wanted something that meshed a little better with the Canvas format. So the program that we would like for the high school is called Mastery Connect. It does the exact same thing as the OTUS did, where we can track and have a scoreboard of how students are doing on their essential learning targets at any given time of the year, any given day, any given week. We know what standard or essential learning targets the kids have mastered, which ones they haven't, and this is kind of that scoreboard that does that. This is also paid for out of the digital teaching and learning grant. So I would like a motion to purchase Instructure. So one of the reasons we brought this before the board, this is a $7,500 purchase. That's based on the number of kids we think will be using it for. We thought the board would want to be aware of it just in case we need to expand that. Then it would exceed a 10,000 mark. But for right now, it's just a $75.0175.
So moved.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Judd. Appreciate your time and effort on that. Okay, we'll move to Mr. Francis Harrison, Wasatch Education Center window replacement.
As you have probably noticed, many of the insulated glass units in the windows at the Wasatch Education Center have failed. And we got 2 prices to replace many of those. The low price, which is my recommendation, is that we accept the bid from Muller Up Glass for $29,344. The budget amount for this item was $30,000.
I motion that we approve what Francis Harrison has rolled out to us for $29,344.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 11, Old Mill Elementary scrubber.
Okay, this is a replacement scrubber for the custodians at Old Mill Elementary. This is a state bid contract from Bell Janitorial. The bid amount is $16,672, which I recommend. The budget for this was $15,000.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, Midway Scrubber.
Okay, the exact same purchase as for Old Mill Elementary. State bid contract from Bell Janitorial for $16,672 is my recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Francis, what was the budget on that one?
The budget amount for this one was $15,000 as well.
As well, thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Item number 13, maintenance truck.
This is a new maintenance truck for the maintenance department. We have two prices here. One is from Larry Miller, which is a state bid contract for $39,578.60. We have a price from Labrum Chevrolet for $40,526.40. Due to the ease of service and warranty items, I would recommend the best value for the district is to purchase from Labrum Chevrolet for $40,526.40. The budget amount for this truck is $60,000. In addition to the truck itself, we will need to buy a bed and a plow, and there is money within that $60,000 to do that.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And, sorry, what's the next one?
Stadium speakers.
Stadium speakers. Thank you. Item number 14.
So the speakers at the stadium at Wasatch High School are in need of replacement. We got four prices for this project. The low price is Atkinson Sound for $13,658, which is my recommendation. And we had $15,000 budgeted for this item.
I make a motion that we approve Atkinson Sound for the Wasatch High School stadium speakers at $13,658.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And finally, item number 15, Rocky Mountain Middle School, Wasatch High School oven replacement.
So this is for 3 stacks of commercial ovens. There are 2 ovens per stack, so a total of 6 ovens. 2 of those stacks will go to Rocky Mountain Middle School, 1 stack to Wasatch High School. They are replacements for ovens that are already there. We recommend that we go with the low price on this from Restaurant and Store for $18,420, and the budget for this was $18,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Francis, thank you for all your work. I
Thank
assume
you.
we're all within our budget, or all budgeted for this budget year, and
That's almost every project now is bid, and overall we're well under the budget.
great. Thank you.
Francis.
Thank you.
Appreciate your effort.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Superintendent, we're on to you for a report. Any report tonight?
Yes, we've prepared just a short video to highlight some of the things that have been going on in the district in recent weeks, and we'd like to present that to you at this time.
That would be great.
school buildings early in March. But the closing of schools did not stop Wasatch County educators from meeting the needs of their students.
Let's see if we can start that over again, if possible.
I hear Paco's trumpet every morning with my second grader. So
Can you?
he's a good guy. Got to know him pretty well.
Who's that, Tom?
We just saw a picture of him. He's a second grader teacher at Midway Elementary School. He's dual emerging. He starts the class by playing his trumpet every morning.
What does he play?
You know, he's got a couple of good ones. He's got a kind of a Latino flavor. It's it grows on you. He starts it every morning and goes, "Hola chicos, yo estoy de sueño. No quiero levantarme." I'm all engaged. I'm an engaged parent at homeschool.
It's good. You haven't tapped out yet, huh? You're hanging with it.
No, it's the last week.
Oh,
for the
it's
elementary.
buzzer.
Last week for elementary school.
Tom, I tapped out yesterday.
Graduated.
Yep.
Hang in there. We're working on it. It's going to be worth it.
Is that a good feeling, Corey, or a little bittersweet?
Well, how did you feel last year, Blake?
A little bittersweet.
Yeah. How is it a year later?
It's good.
It's sweet now, huh?
It's good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was okay, but it does feel different.
Well, graduation was great, by the way. Thanks for everybody that did all the effort.
Yeah, it was a
I've heard
huge
a lot of
undertaking.
heard a lot of great feedback.
In March. But the closing of schools did not stop county educators from meeting the needs of their students. Days of the closing of schools, Wasatch teachers have revamped their course material to create a curriculum that would fit a digital learning model to allow students to continue receiving quality learning instruction from their
It's not gonna work. We can walk through.
We're going to try one more thing and then we'll just email it out to you. You can watch it on your own time. But it's a cool little video.
It might help if everybody mutes.
Yeah. Is that where the feedback's coming from?
The 2020 school year brought unique challenges to families as the COVID-19 pandemic closed school buildings early in March. But the closing of schools did not stop Wasatch County educators from meeting the needs of their students. While many schools across the nation struggled and took weeks to put a system in place, within 2 days of the closing of schools,
Wasatch teachers had revamped their course material to create a curriculum that would fit a digital learning model to allow students to continue receiving quality daily instruction from their teachers.
Be safe. Bam, bam, bam. Be kind. Be responsible.
Day after day, teachers would meet electronically with groups as well as with individual students to continue to deliver outstanding educational experiences to their classes.
Hi, team. Well, this morning we're going to talk about social distancing. Now, the governor has asked us, I'm going to show you with these washers, these washers love to be together. You put them down here and they're all sticking right together, and they think, oh, this is the way washers like to be. Well, that's good, but we want to demonstrate what social distancing is. So you tell these washers, okay, washers, now it's nice to be sticking together right now. The governor's asked us to stay apart. So can you show us what that is? So I take them and I say, okay, here's what social distancing looks like. They're bouncing away from each other and they still like each other. They're still close together, but they're not right on top of each other. That's what social distancing is all about.
Now, as this challenging school year nears the end, we want to thank all of the educators, teachers, and staff alike who have worked so hard to care for the children of Wasatch County. The relationships forged during this time will help our children weather the challenges that will come their way as they continue through life.
All right. Hey, Chief. How you doing? Best I could find for a bass drum was a giant purple Tupperware, so hopefully this sounds all right. Here we go. Cool. There you go. Hope that turned out all right, and we will hopefully see you rather soon.
So maybe just a little explanation of that pomp and circumstance. Mr. Rizka organized that whole thing with individual students recording their piece in their homes. And then he took the leader of the band and the two of them compiled every piece that each kid played on their own into one orchestrated piece using some of the technology we have. But it was a significant effort to put that all together. Very impressed with some of the online collaborative ways that these teachers figured out how to get students to still interact with each other, even as something as complicated as a band, which you think, how are they going to ever play together? They figured things out.
Great, thank you. That was very impressive.
Thanks for sharing that video, and Mr. Judd, thank you for that explanation. I'm sure that was a lot of work, and they did great. Students did great. Well, Superintendent, anything else that needs to come before the board?
You know, I just might mention here at the end, I know we talked a little bit about this in our last board meeting, and Ben Springer shared some thoughts about why this cannot be the new normal. We have to get our kids back in school. We have to get our kids back in close proximity with their teachers and their peers. You know, in the school classroom, we often learn as much from our peers as we do our teacher. And when having that camaraderie and that setting is very important to us. One thing that got us by this year a little bit is that the students already knew their teacher. They'd already developed a relationship with them. And so we were able to have a good experience because kids had developed a relationship. They trusted their teacher, and they did what they were asked, and they completed online. Starting a brand new school year where that has not taken place would create a whole new set of challenges for us and our students. And the next little piece of information I'm going to give, I do so cautiously, but it certainly is the truth. And that is, as you know, we've always offered online education. We talked about some software tonight. We've always offered blended learning. These are not new things for Wasatch County School District. And one thing that we know is that students struggle to be successful. Students that when it comes to just pure online learning. College students do better at it. High school students and on down the line, not so well. You could make an argument that, you know, the top 10%, the top 20% of our students can learn and do well and succeed in almost any setting. Ben Springer talked about the bottom 20% really being left behind and the learning gap becoming huge moving forward. That also applies to just learning, online learning in general. We can tell you that those students that sign up for online classes, we're talking about maybe 15% that ever finish those online classes on their own. And that's hard facts of what our data would show us over the past few years. So as board members, you are going to hear about, geez, we don't need to build new schools. We've learned how to do online. Let's just go with it. You know, we need to make sure that we don't let comments like that stand. And perhaps we can put together as staff a one-page paper of some facts and talking points and things that you can have in front of you and and have a good information to share with the public as these conversations come up, because this can't be the new normal. We would be doing our students a huge disservice. It's our intent as a school district, the sooner we can get these kids back in class, back with their teacher, the better they're going to do, and the better our education is going to be. So I'll just leave that thought with you, and that's all I have for today, President Baird.
Thank you.
Superintendent, and back with their peers as well.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Good statement there. And
No,
thank you.
I think we all agree, especially those we all have kids in the district, and we've seen them struggle. We've seen them fight through what they usually grasp pretty easily. I know in my house, I've got some middle schoolers that have had a really hard time with concepts and what you said, Corey, being away from their friends. And I've had that comment given to me a couple of times over the last few days, and I just fall back on the classroom as the great equalizer. Doesn't matter what your home life's like. Here in Midway, you could wake up in the trailer court above the homestead or in Dutch Fields. But when you go to the classroom and you have a teacher, they equalize any of that and provide you with quality education that you can't necessarily count on from a laptop in your home.
I think this little experiment we've all had to go through just shows even further that we need expanded facilities. And just like Tom said, the whole role of the school in this whole education process is so important, and being together and being in a quality facility to be able to learn. We've all had to punt and make this happen, but I think anybody would say this isn't the way to do it. So,
yeah,
I am grateful how prepared our district was, though, going into this.
For sure.
And, for the vision of being prepared with digital learning, our teachers, our students. I can't imagine if we hadn't been down this road for 5 or 6 years already.
Yeah.
Going into it. Having said that, I agree with all the comments. The sooner we can get back our students with their teachers and their peers, the better it will be for our students. What's your laughing there, Corey?
We're getting a thumbs up from Stacy Kim.
Who's that from? Oh, there we go. Maybe that's because our time's up. So anyway, hey, everyone, thank you for joining. Those who maybe in the public joined us, we thank you. If you had questions, again, questions at wasatch.edu, and if you'll send those out, we'll get a response to you. Hopefully our next board meeting in June, we'll be together again.
Yes.
The plan, and
good.
And we'll go from there. I
think
any other comments from anyone?
I got a text. I believe during this meeting, Wasatch County was officially moved to yellow.
Nice.
So that's progress.
Yeah, great.
That's great news. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is third. Any other discussion items? If not, we're those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.